Hi everyone! Welcome to today's episode of Queerly Natural, where we talk about queerness in the natural world. We discuss different traits and qualities of animals, plants, fungi, and more, and how they relate to queer identities in humans. Some may argue our identities are not natural, and we are here to say they queerly are. We are your hosts. I'm Ilana.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Elizabeth. We are so excited for y'all to hear this week's episode on bonobos. Hannah does such an amazing job explaining just what bonobos are and why are they queer. Do bonobos live up to their Latin name, paniscus? You'll have to listen to find out. Enjoy the pilot episode of Queerly Natural.
Today on Queerly Natural, we will be talking about the bonobo, or the pygmy chimpanzee.
That's a weird name.
Tiny monkeys.
Tiny monkey.
Well, not monkey, but close enough.
Yeah, Ilana means that bonobos aren't monkeys because monkeys have tails, so bonobos are technically apes. The Latin name for the bonobo is paniscus.
Queerness.
Double queer.
Love it.
Queerer than our single homo.
Ayy.
The bonobo is a large ape, one of the last large mammals discovered by science, and that happened in 1929.
Which means there's people alive today who were living and aware when they found these guys, which is wild.
I can't imagine, like, opening the newspaper, I guess, was how that worked back in the day. And being like, wow, look, there's a new primate. Guess we have a new cousin.
Ancient technology of the newspaper.
It's a stretch.
I'm trying to think of, like, a similarly charismatic species. Like, they discover a polar bear while you're alive.
I'm down.
I think I would lose my mind.
So the bonobo is found only in the lowland rainforest along the Congo River in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is a country in central, almost southern Africa. The species was discovered by science in a Belgian colonial museum.
Wow.
There might be hundreds of undiscovered species in your local museum. Think about that.
Yeah, just hiding in the specimens collections.
That haven't been labeled?
Or mislabeled. If it's fungi, they're probably mislabeled.
Ooh, mislabeled.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So fund your local museums, listeners.
Please.
Yes, very important.
And herbariums, and fungariums, and botanical gardens.
Please.
Anything you can think of that does science. Give them money. We would appreciate it. You're the best. Okay.
So this species was discovered in a museum. However, the skull had to get to the museum somehow. So evidently, at least one person had seen the species before the guy who got credit. And absolutely, the people indigenous to the bonobo's native habitat knew that it was a species before the guy who got credit, whose name was Ernst Schwartz, and he was a German anatomist. Hello, this is Hannah from the future. I'm the one editing these, so I'll also be recording a lot of these corrections and clarifications. I just wanted to put a note here saying that while we support the discovery of new knowledge and the expansion of all human knowledge collectively, we do not support colonialism or the history of white Western science using colonial expansion to further itself at the expense of indigenous communities. The quote-unquote discovery of species like the bonobo by the global scientific community would have happened without colonialism if the holders of that knowledge had consented to sharing it with the world and had the resources to do so themselves. To make it clear, we support ethical, equitable, and honest science. Okay, that's all. You might hear again from me later. Back to regular Hannah. Schwartz found the skull of what had previously been thought to be a young chimpanzee in this museum, but upon studying the skull, he discovered that it belonged to an adult organism, so he concluded that it must have come from a species separate from the chimpanzee it was previously called. Therefore, he called the species the pygmy chimpanzee because the skull was smaller, even though the bonobo is the same size as the smallest subspecies of chimp, with the males being 95 pounds and the females being 73 pounds.
Imagine your entire species just being named because one of you guys was small. It's like assuming all humans are like 5 feet based on a smaller human, or 6.5 feet based on a really tall human. Gotta all be the same, right? That's how that works.
And even if on average their skull is smaller than the average chimp skull, the bodies are the same size. We're just making a lot of incorrect assumptions from one bone. He had to go back and correct that.
But hey, he did realize it was a different species.
That's true.
I guess that's something, right?
And even compared to people, this thing is not that small. The males are 95 pounds. There are some adult people who are less than 100 pounds, right?
Yeah, I had a friend who weighed less than 100 pounds. Granted, she was 4'7", but they're out there.
Small humans overlap with the size of large bonobos. So calling this ape pygmy is not necessarily accurate.
They're taller than hobbits.
Whoa.
They're taller than hobbits? Wow.
Yeah, hobbits are only like up to like 3 to 4.
And they got called pygmy? Wow.
They're big boys. End of story. They're big boys too.
They are. Look at these adults. I'm with Hannah. If you're bigger than a hobbit, you shouldn't have pygmy anything in your name.
Anyway, I sent photographs of the bonobo to you two if you'd like to peruse those and attempt to describe the species to our listeners.
Ooh, this will be interesting.
So just like this scientist who had to describe a species based on a skull, we get to try and describe the species. Granted, we get photos of living bonobos. Bonus, but you'll get to see just how clear we can be. You will get to see these images or similar images of bonobos on our socials, so please be sure to check there. For now, let us paint you a word picture.
With our very clumsy brushstrokes.
Elizabeth, should we tag team this?
Yeah, let's tag team it. That sounds like a good strategy.
Okay. Well, when I first look at these photos, one huge thing I notice is they have a very human-like structure of their body.
Yeah.
They are muscle humans.
If I had ever taken an anatomy class, I would know what these muscles are called, like biceps and triceps, and I don't know other muscles in your arms. But these guys have big arms.
And legs.
Okay, they lift weights. That's what I got for you.
They be strong monkeys, or, well, chimpanzees.
Beefy boys.
Oh, yes. Tough boys. Well, kind of tough boys. We'll get into that.
They've definitely got dark hair.
Yeah.
That seems to, like, vary in how thick it is. Maybe with age. Don't know.
Yeah. Is this like a balding thing like humans? Is this an age indicator where their fur is really thin?
The bald spot.
I noticed that too, Elizabeth. They bald on the top of the head right where old human men bald.
Well, not necessarily old,
No.
Very true.
but theoretically.
Hello, future Hannah again. I found the answer to why bonobos bald, and it's much sadder than what we were talking about just now. It's not because they get old. Bonobos in the wild generally have full heads of black hair, but in captivity many are bald. Captive bonobos tend to overgroom key members of the group, like the highest-ranking females. Balding can also be caused by boredom and stress, and diseases that destroy hair follicles like ringworm and the mites that cause mange. So not age, but stress in captivity or disease are more likely the cause. Anyway, back to the show.
Also, they seem kind of elongated. Like, I'm just looking at their hands, and they're long hands.
Yeah, they've kind of got like a gorilla posture. They're walking on their knuckles, very heavily on their front hands.
Big fingers.
Yeah.
A pianist's fingers.
They've got the pretty classic chimpanzee-esque facial structure where it protrudes in the front, like the nose and the mouth.
Yeah. And the brow. It's a very sticking outy brow.
Yes.
That's not a scientific term. Don't quote me.
Yes, it is. It is now. I am definitely always quoting this.
Okay, stick outy brow. New term.
I would say on the scale of cute to very cute, they're definitely very cute.
Absolutely.
Yeah. These guys are adorable. I would definitely hug a bonobo so quick.
Hypothetically, I agree they do look very huggable, though we don't encourage touching wildlife on this podcast. That can be very dangerous for both animals and people.
We have one picture where one of them is playing with a banana and another where they're blowing bubbles or drinking.
Okay, but what if that's a baby bonobo learning to blow bubbles? That would make me so happy. It's so cute. It's probably an adult, but don't ruin my fantasy. Okay, this bonobo is blowing bubbles and he's so happy. I want to be that happy.
Good reflection, too. It's a good photo.
Yeah, it's a very pretty photo.
I think that's most of my comments. Do you have any extra, Elizabeth?
They have really cute ears. Did we mention the cute ears? I like those ears.
They do have ears.
They're very stick-outy.
They are very stick-outy.
Just like the brows. This is the bonobo theme. They have stick-outy facial features.
All right. I think that's our official bonobo description here.
Yes, my official description.
Nice. Good job.
How'd we do, Hannah?
You hit most of the main points.
Okay, that's not bad, right? It's fine.
Take it.
I feel like you painted a pretty good word picture.
All right.
I'm not a zoologist. It's fine.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. Are any of us zoologists?
No.
I mean, Elizabeth's the closest.
Yeah, kind of. But like, I just want to look at everything put together in the plants.
We're just doing our best.
Yeah, we're just doing our best. It's fine.
If any of our listeners happen to be zoologists and notice something we say that is incorrect, please feel free to contact us.
Yes, we would love to hear more official terms than stick outy. That would be great. Let us know.
Yes. Anyway, here's the more official description I found from Bonobo Sex and Society by Franz de Waal in 1995. That's where most of this information comes from. Bonobos have longer limbs and narrower chests than chimps. They have small heads and narrow shoulders with reddish lips and a black face. The ears are small and the nostrils are wide and flat like a gorilla's. They have a flatter, more open face than a chimpanzee with a higher forehead and stylish, middle-parted, fine black hair.
They're ready for a night out. Makeup and hair done. All nice.
Yeah, all natural, baby.
Entirely natural. Would you like to hear more about the bonobo?
Yes.
Absolutely. Is that a real question? Come on.
I was just making sure. Bonobos are herbivorous, meaning they only eat plants.
Same.
And they're mainly diurnal, meaning they mostly do their activities during the daytime.
I wish I could claim that. That would be nice.
Sometimes, we were saying earlier though, the best ideas happen at night.
Yeah, the creative hour. It's like 1 or 2 in the morning for me. Anyway, I think Ilana's got a different perspective.
I'm asleep by then. I have really great dreams at that time.
Ilana's our truly diurnal group member. Way to represent.
Yeah.
And I have a sort of diary of what the bonobo's average day looks like.
Wow, they keep diaries. They're better than me.
Yeah, I've never managed. I write a major event for like 2 weeks and then I don't write for like 3 years.
I mean, the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance does it for them.
Oh, cool. Well, there you go. See, being a bonobo is already great. They have like personal biographers.
They're just that fancy.
Yeah. So the bonobos are the star of the diary, but it's not necessarily a personal diary. It's biographical, not autobiographical. So the bonobo is largely diurnal, as I said. And in one day, a bonobo will spend about 43% of the day resting, 18% feeding in trees, 20% doing terrestrial activities like traveling and feeding, and then another 13% traveling, and I assume that's traveling maybe in trees because it's separate from the terrestrial traveling category.
That makes sense.
And on average, they travel between 1.5 and 15 kilometers a day to forage.
That's a big range.
Sounds like the ideal day. I need to break down my own day into percentages, see how I'm doing.
I feel like as grad students, we're not doing so good on the rest portion of activities.
No. Does sitting at my laptop count as terrestrial activities?
I believe so.
I don't know.
Need to know.
What does being on my phone count as?
I think that's terrestrial activities, yeah.
That's a large chunk of my day, unfortunately.
But 43% resting, and resting is separate from feeding and traveling.
That's a good life.
Like, you're not even eating. They're not even, like, chilling on the couch eating. They're just chilling. They're just vibing.
Maybe they're watching some TV.
That sounds so nice.
I want it.
All right, tell us more about their life.
So, at the end of the day, they'll construct nests in the trees that they'll use to forage in the next morning. So they'll just kind of roll over and grab some breakfast. It's a high priority for them.
I also prioritize breakfast in the mornings.
Me too.
That's just not next to my bed.
Sometimes I'll leave like a little something over there, a little granola bar or something.
My dog would have it for a midnight snack if I did.
Yeah, I don't think my dog Holly would leave any food left in the bedroom with my eyes closed alone. It would definitely be gone.
Bonobos have a nest construction similar to that of the common chimp. They usually build, as I said, in fruit-bearing trees. They prefer saplings that are less than 8 inches in diameter, and their average nest height is 7 to 15 meters, or 23 to 49 feet.
Wow, that's ambitious.
Yeah.
Dang.
So, yeah, it's a sapling, but they're still pretty tall, like 50 feet.
Yeah. Geez, I don't want to climb up that to go to bed. I can barely make myself come up my apartment stairs upstairs when I'm tired.
Right. And what? That's like 5 stories? Like what? I don't know. Ceilings are maybe like 10 feet tall?
Yeah, that's too tall. I'd definitely be going for those 23 feet.
So like second or third story.
Yeah.
I don't understand. How do they stay in the tree? Oh, I guess in their nest.
I don't know. It'd have to be a real big nest for me not to fall out of it.
Just quick looking up a bonobo nest picture.
You gotta be tall. They're like small chimpanzee. I'll show you. I'm gonna be tall.
Yeah, I would not survive as a bonobo, sadly, if I had to sleep in a tree.
Oh, their nests look pretty big.
Talent.
Okay, but does it come with guardrails is the question. Because that's what I need.
Okay, humans are a bad example. We fall out of beds and they're like inches off the ground.
It's like, so in a fork and branches, they'll make a little platform kind of out of leaves and other branches and stuff.
I'm sure. They're probably nice and comfy.
Oh no, I would definitely die. But I'm glad they can manage that. That's good.
There's like kind of a divot in the middle. So like maybe...
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I'd make it.
It's like a leaf bowl.
Yeah, leaf bowl. Thank you. A much better description than I came up with, Ilana.
Okay, leaf bowl sounds good. That's nice. A very pleasant place to fall to your death from.
Live a little. Their babies do that.
I want to. That's the problem. That's why I can't sleep in one of those.
No, I would also be terrified.
Yeah.
And adult bonobos sometimes share a nest, which is a unique behavior among African apes. In the average day, the bonobo will rise in the early morning between 5 and 6 o'clock, and then, of course, they'll feed immediately, because, like I said, that's very important. After a rest period, the troop leisurely travels on the ground to the next food trees, feeding on terrestrial plants as they go. There's a gradual decline in activity around midday. Afternoon is spent eating more and traveling more, and then at night, arboreal nests are constructed at or near the last feeding site, and then they'll settle in for the night around 6:30 or 7:30. And that last feeding site is their first feeding site the next day.
Sounds like the perfect day.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Early bedtime, but you know.
Nothing to keep them up.
Yeah, I mean.
You got your food, you've got your rest. What more do you want?
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
And we could have this. Why do we torture ourselves?
But the internet, Hannah, the internet is such an interesting place at 3 a.m.
So yeah, that's that on the bonobos. Daily day-to-day. Bonobos live in fission-fusion societies, like chimps and like humans, meaning they travel alone or in small parties of a few individuals at a time within the context of a larger community. Like I said, we do that. We live in a society, but in our day-to-day, we talk to our work friends, our...
chill at the house friends. The best friends. The one you invite over and never talk to because you're just sitting next to each other experiencing different things.
Craft friends. Or when you're in grade school, your math friends versus your history friends versus your English class friends.
Yeah, classmates. Yeah, definitely.
You're like going out and partying friends. You're like board game friends. We have different social groups. And the name Fission Fusion comes from the fact that these small groups that are interacting on the day-to-day are very transient. So they're ever-changing. One small group of bonobos will encounter another small group of bonobos, and then maybe one individual from group A will leave with group B and travel with them from then on. So the groups are never constant.
Cool. Who changes groups?
The males tend to stay with their natal group, meaning the group they were born in, whereas females tend to migrate during adolescence. So the females are the ones that change groups, and they do this before they have children. Males remain attached to their mothers for their entire lives, following them and being dependent on them for protection and aggressive encounters with other males.
Wait, so when they get into a fight, they call their moms in for backup. I love that. But like also those poor moms.
Right. Not only do they never leave like the group they were born in, but they also just never leave their moms.
Mama's boys.
Like you said, poor mom. But I know some human mothers that would square up for their baby boys.
Yeah, I mean there's always those. Yep.
So not unprecedented.
That's a lot of effort though. Just always.
Yeah, I think I know a lot of human parents who are very glad to, not say goodbye forever, but wave the kid away when they turn 18 for just like occasional spending time after that. Not the whole life glued at the hip bit.
Yeah, that was definitely my parents. I can't blame them.
Exactly. They had to take care of me for 18 years. I'd want a break too.
Yeah, I understand getting tired of it. And in this situation, the highest ranking males in a bonobo society are the sons of important females, because the bonds between females are more important and more central to bonobo society than males. So as a result of males never leaving their natal group, senior males have known all junior males since birth, and all junior males have grown up together, whereas females have to transfer to a new group where initially everyone's a stranger and they're often hostile.
Ooh, yeah. Strong, independent women. All right.
Right? Forging those relationships
must be tough.
It's important. They're doing the work. So now on to why the bonobo is queer.
Ooh, the good stuff.
Please tell us. Why are they queer?
So on arrival to a new community, young female bonobos will signal to a couple senior resident females using frequent genito-genital rubbing. And in the literature, that'll be abbreviated GG rubbing. And this is where the two females will rub vulvas. And they often do this in the missionary position, so face to face.
Wait, why is that the name?
Missionary position?
I don't know if I want to know, but why?
I feel like it's not good. Do you know?
It's not good. It's very bad, actually.
Okay. Tell us.
So it's called missionary position because European Christians at one point believed that having face-to-face sex was a uniquely human trait.
Okay.
And that's the justification they used for saying that we were superior. We as in humans, as in, well, I guess they thought European Christian humans.
Gross.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to pick out.
Why is that our defining trait?
Well, it's not. Like, they were wrong. Look at this. Bonobos do it too.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think there might be newts and salamanders that also, I'm not sure, but there might be.
Yeah, and insects, don't dragonflies do it face to face or something?
Dragonflies are a little different.
I think they do it back on back, but
Back on back.
No, they do head to toe kind of.
Oh, head to toe. Yeah, that's how they do it.
Oh, yeah, that's different.
Can't forget about dragonflies. But there are other species that have sex face to face. It's not just us. It's bonobos. It's other species. We'll likely talk about them at some point in the future. So these European Christians thought that it was their duty to teach the indigenous populations that they attempted to convert to Christianity how to have face-to-face sex. Implying, as far as I can tell, that these indigenous peoples were not human themselves.
Oh, no.
Extremely gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a lot of levels. And why do we still call... Okay, well, society is messed up.
So maybe we should come up with a different word for that.
Yes, I vote new word. We should brainstorm this. Listeners, if you had a new idea, send it in.
Yes, we would love to hear it, because it should not be named after these missionaries who did terrible things.
Yeah, exactly. That's just not right. We need a new name.
In bonobos, 1 in 3 copulations in the wild is done face-to-face. So it's not even an uncommon occurrence. It's 33% of the time.
Such a weird statistic.
Yeah, that's kind of a lot. How many were watched to determine that? Yeah.
In addition, the frontal position of the vulva and clitoris of female bonobos suggests that their genitalia have adapted to face-to-face copulation or face-to-face GG rubbing, whatever you want to call sex between two female bonobos.
Interesting. Okay, so their bodies have evolved to take that behavior into account. That's really cool.
Yeah, to kind of maximize the positive reward they get out of it, I assume, the pleasure.
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. So once the female arrives in her new community of bonobos, if the contact is reciprocated by the senior female, close associations are formed and the female is gradually accepted into the group. So the strongest social bonds form between female bonobos, which goes against the generally accepted idea put forward by this guy Richard Wrangham at Harvard University, which said that the sex that stays in the natal group forms the strongest mutual bonds, which, you think would make sense because males have grown up together, they've known each other their whole lives. It makes sense that they would be close friends. They have a long history.
Yeah, or hate each other's guts completely. I feel like there's no in between.
Yeah, and if one of them did something that pissed the other off, maybe they're not on such good terms. Yeah.
Family. Ayo.
So maybe that's why female bonobos have stronger social bonds.
Oh, okay. So the ones who change groups actually bond closer. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's something interesting about bonobos. The female bond is stronger, it's more important in their society, and then females will form the strongest bonds with the males that they're related to, so their sons.
Uh-huh.
And then I guess the bonds between females and unrelated males are just kind of transactional.
Okay. Interesting.
I'll talk more about that later. And then conflicts between social groups of bonobos has been observed, but it seems to be pretty rare. Different communities have been reported to peaceably commingle, including engaging in mutual sex and grooming.
The original make love, not war.
I like it. Exactly. These guys have it figured out way better than people.
Absolutely. And here I just kind of want to bring up the long history that science has of looking to the chimp as our closest relative and looking at the chimp's more violent and warlike behavior and sort of using that to justify human violence. A study has shown that the bonobo might actually be the closest living relative to humans genetically. If you'd like to read my source on that, it can be found in our episode transcript on our website.
Oh, yes. Love that. That's extremely exciting.
Ooh, fun.
So what I'm hearing is that instead of a patriarchal, violent society of chimpanzees, right, because they solve a lot of their issues with physical confrontations, we might be more closely related to this female-led, matriarchal, peaceful, egalitarian society that has a lot of really good sex. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Might skip out on the last part.
Yeah, that's okay. It's optional, Ilana. It's optional.
I'm down for a matriarchal society, though. Let's go.
Matriarchal societies are great, and egalitarian's always good.
Why do scientists and philosophers and all of this feel the need to use the animal kingdom to explain our own behaviors when it comes to war, but differentiate ourselves when it comes to love and be like, oh, we're not like this at all. But then we use animals to explain the worst part of ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's such a dichotomy.
We're willing to identify with the violence, but we're not willing to identify with the love and the diversity.
Dang. I guess, yeah, and that's why we're here doing the podcast.
Yeah, because maybe we should relate to that. But at the same time, while we may be more closely related to the bonobo, maybe we should be careful this time around, learn from our past mistakes, and maybe not use an animal that is not a human. It's very distinct from a human. We have our own evolutionary line, and that's what makes us our own species that is completely different from any other species that exists. And maybe not try to find a template for us in nature. Like, we're our own thing, and that's okay.
Definitely. I mean, we shared a common ancestor, and then it became two different species. We're not, fully the same, and that's kind of what makes it awesome.
Yeah. And while we're closely related to them, we don't do the same behaviors for the same reasons. We have different societies and cultures in which those behaviors are contextualized. So while we'll call this Animal Pan because we want our queer listeners to be able to relate to nature, that's why we're doing this podcast. The animal itself can't necessarily identify as pan because that identity doesn't exist in bonobo culture as far as we know. Like, that word doesn't have the same meaning, and while it's the best word we can use to describe what we see, it's not necessarily the same behavior.
Maybe another label, right? We're calling them pan because I am enjoying the pun of the genus name. But they could be considered lesbian or bi or anything like that. If we were going to stick a label on them, which, as Hannah's explaining so well, is not really fair to the animal because those labels carry a very heavy cultural weight and significance to us that the animal can't be assumed to have, right? It's not fair to put our feelings and expectations on them. However, in the same vein, you can't call the animal straight because that's got its own connotations. And so you can't call any animal straight or gay necessarily because we don't know what they think of it.
Yeah, but the glossing over by science of queerness in nature is why we're doing this podcast.
It's something science has been afraid to kind of talk about, partially because of our own societal taboos, and partially because there's a lot of feeling of this doesn't fully fit, but in that same vein, we don't have the language to fully describe it as we see in other organisms. And for our own understanding, it can be valuable to use these terms. And I think that's why we are using them here. But a lot of our own labels are based off of how we view it in society and off of concepts of different emotions that we understand, like love and such, that we can't always relate directly to other species because we don't know how they feel. We don't know how this is perceived.
The bonobo has an entire internal world that we have no access to. So we don't know what these queer-ass female bonobos are thinking. Like, we don't know if they're thinking, like, yeah, I feel bi and I'm confident in that. Like, cool if they are, but while they can't necessarily apply those labels to themselves, we're gonna use those labels on this podcast to help us relate to them.
Very much so. This is why we're using this language. This is why, in some ways, science has shied away from it, whether it be society or lack of more correct language and understanding. And as Elizabeth pointed out, we can't use the term straight either necessarily in the same vein. It's the assumption that everything is straight that we start with sometimes, and that's not always clear in general either. Yes, I messed up my words and said the name of the podcast. It's fine.
But that's what makes it perfect. I love it.
We can't use these terms. If we say we can't use one, technically none of them fit, but we're stuck with these words because that's what we have.
The limitations of human language.
I will say, though, it has led to some very funny attempts at explaining these behaviors in science, especially older literature, where this was just not okay. We'll have to share some of those quotes later.
Definitely have to do an episode on that because there's some very interesting explanations for same-sex behavior observed by scientists in like old papers or even more recent stuff, like even into the 90s and the thousands. There was some very interesting explanations.
Like old monks getting unreasonably mad at gay beetles.
I love the beetle comment.
Yeah.
Like, these things are abominations. Like, dude, they're beetles. Chill out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, for sure.
And I want to also add, in biology, like, the concept is you pass on your genes, you pass on, your ultimate goal as an organism is to have children, to pass on your genes. And that also confuses these behaviors because we're like, well, it's not producing a child, therefore it's not of the same significance. But as we see with the bonobos, it's a huge significance for their stature within their social groups and for their interactions. So I'd say they're just as valuable.
Exactly. It's often written off because evolution says that success equals reproduction. And therefore, if something doesn't lead to success, there must not be any motivation to do it.
Right.
That's what biology says, which is inherently homophobic.
Yeah, it's some kind of aberration. It's extremely homophobic. And yeah, science has historically been a very narrow-minded perspective from a very narrow group of scientists. And so at this podcast and a lot of other folks today doing good things, we hope to broaden that narrative. We hope to shed a little more light on some of those things that have been hidden in the closet for so long and let them come out to join us.
Or the jungle.
So now on to the final bit. I found a study done by Moskovich et al. In 2019. Well, it was published in 2019 in the journal Hormone in Behavior. And this paper was called The Cooperative Sex. Sexual interactions among female bonobos are linked to increases in oxytocin, proximity, and coalitions. And this study was done on a wild population of 36 to 40 habituated wild bonobos in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this population consisted of 13 reproductive females, 7 adult males, 4 subadults, which are children, and 3 juvenile females who had immigrated into the group but weren't considered resident females yet. And this study observed 971 sexual events over the course of 1,483 observation hours.
Wow.
1,483 hours. That's... I need help. How many days is that?
So like almost 27 events per bonobo involved if you're assuming 36 because the 4 are too young.
27.
Okay, 27 events per bonobo in...
1 second, I have a calculator. 1483 divided by 24.
Thank you for being prepared, Ilana.
Right. And it might be more if you take out the children.
Well, I took out the 4 youth because you said 36 to 40, so I went with 36.
Yeah.
So that's about a little less than 62 days if you went by full 24-hour period.
Okay.
Wait, how many days?
62.
62.
27 events per individual, and that's just one per individual, not considering that sexual acts take place between more than one person.
Sometimes.
Usually. I think the ones they're talking about, probably. But anyways.
Yeah, so I guess double that. I didn't add that part in.
No worries. That's all right. So 2 months, minimum of 27 acts per individual.
Minimum.
That's something. That's definitely something.
Probably closer to 40-something.
But this was also 2 months of observation over the course of like 4 months or something.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they probably didn't include the resting periods, as in nighttime when we're sleeping.
They had to sleep.
And you said it was at a zoo, right?
No, it was a wild population.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the scientists probably had to come and go. I wouldn't be very excited about 24-hour watch of bonobos.
Right.
No, I'd probably fall out of the tree I was trying to watch them from.
Yes.
Oh, it was January 2013 to May 2014. Oh, shit.
Okay.
A lot.
Yeah, so like a year and a half.
Like 17 months. So they, went to sleep and lived their lives in addition to doing the study.
Yeah.
So, of the sexual events that they observed, 65% involved 2 unrelated females.
Okay.
And 98% of the time, those females were doing the GG rubbing. I'm not sure what they did the other 2% of the time. To be honest, they didn't say in the paper.
Okay, all right. But 98% is a very high percentage. I feel okay with that.
But I'm just curious, like.
I'm curious too. That was my first thought as well.
And then 65% of the events were between females, and then 34% of the events were between males and females, most of which were copulations. And then 2 males were involved less than 1% of the time.
Okay.
They're busy.
Okay, so that's almost perfectly split between 2/3 female and 1/3 female. Wow.
Which I think kind of contradicts the statistic from before that said 33% of copulation events are GG rubbing.
Oh, but that was for face-to-face. Wasn't it for face-to-face?
Yeah, it was face-to-face. It was the missionary position that we don't like the name of.
Oh, our face-to-face. Yeah. But we know GG rubbing is face-to-face. And that's almost 2/3 of the events here.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. So the authors of the study who did the experiment observed all of these sexual events. And in conjunction with observing sexual events and taking this data about the sex involved and all that sort of thing, they also took the urine of the bonobos.
Fun.
Right?
Honestly, not the worst thing scientists do. Like, I've collected poop before, and I'm not sure that's the worst job I've had either.
I've studied flies from cow poop before.
Dung flies.
There you go. I think that's topping me.
Yeah, I can ID 8 different genera of dung fly.
That is a marketable talent.
Very impressive, yeah.
I'm proud of it.
Field biologists get up close and personal with byproducts of other species very often. Too often.
Right? Well, you said you were studying fecal matter, Elizabeth. So was that because it was a cryptic species?
Yes. It was a species that we knew about, but we didn't know their diet. So we were looking at how their diet affected their microbiome.
Oh, that's cool.
And when I say we, I mean the PhD student in charge of the project. I was just a minion. But, I thought it sounded cool.
No, I loved being interns on cool ass projects like that. I know that like animal biologists who study like wolves and other things that are like super hard to find, sometimes the feces is like some of the only evidence they have. So that's like an actual sampling method for testing whether a species is present or not, is just like looking for the poop.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah, right? So I didn't know if that's what you were doing, but
No, not quite.
It's a good way to get deer counts.
But studying diet is also very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these researchers took the urine of the bonobos before sex to establish a baseline of urinary oxytocin, which is the love hormone. I've heard it called the love hormone.
I've heard it called the happy hormone, but like good things either way.
Good things, yes.
Very good things. I did find out, fun fact, totally related to me being a dog owner, but oxytocin is produced in dogs' minds at a high level when they see their owner after their owner's been away. So I think that's cute.
That is very cute. Yeah, so people you have strong love bonds with, whether that's friendship, pet owner, companionship, or something more.
Or more intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, oxytocin's the good stuff, guys.
Oxytocin is the good shit. These researchers measured baseline oxytocin, and then they also collected urine after sexual activity, and they found that female bonobos only had significantly higher levels of oxytocin following GG rubbing. They didn't have significantly higher oxytocin after copulation with males.
Okay. All right. I feel like we could conclude some things from that. Or, imply some things.
Take from that what you will.
Ladies loving ladies. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, to put this a little bit more into context, oxytocin is produced by all mammals. It's produced by mothers following birth. It's produced by mothers during breastfeeding. It's produced by lovers while they're cuddling or after sex. It's produced by dogs looking at their owners, like Elizabeth said. So yeah, really read into female bonobos relationships what you will. And the study kind of speculates on why that is, like why females have this sort of more emotional response following sex with other females. And they think it might be because they have face-to-face sex. They're saying that eye contact is really important because in all of the other contexts I mentioned, they involve eye contact.
Yeah.
All of the other scenarios I mentioned involved eye contact. A dog looking to its owner, a baby looking up to its mother while breastfeeding. Like face-to-face is really important in all of those. So these authors are saying that might be related to this response.
Okay. Yeah, that makes me kind of awe a little bit. I think that's really cute.
It's so cute. They gaze lovingly into each other's eyes as they GG rub. I hate that they call it that.
Love at sight. Love at eyesight instead of love at first sight.
Oh, so cute, you guys. These little lady monkeys are melting my heart. I love it.
And I forgot to say, so bonobos have sex most often in feeding contexts. Anything that catches the attention of more than one bonobo will induce this flurry of sex. And that's kind of how they work out egalitarian sharing of resources. So food is what most often catches the attention of more than one bonobo. So food will be introduced. Bonobos will have sex for like 5 to 10 minutes. That's how long this flurry of activity lasts. And then females will sit in close proximity and they will parcel out the food evenly. And then I believe they share with the males. But the males don't remain in close proximity, see? So that's where these authors are saying that this emotional connection after the sex motivates these bonded females to stay in close proximity and share their meal.
Yeah.
In a more social context.
That's really cute.
Right, it is very cute.
Picnics.
Gay picnic. A gay loves a good picnic.
If only listeners.
And to compare this to chimps, in chimp society, males will aggressively fight for their portion of the food, and then females will share his scraps.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty big difference. I like bonobos, you guys.
Not as fun. I prefer the picnics.
Me too.
Yes, I like picnics more than dominance fights for food.
Also scraps.
Anyway,
Not fun.
bonobos.
And that wraps off our episode on the bonobo.
Yay! Good job, Hannah.
So is Pan paniscus Pan? I guess you guys get to decide after this.
Queerly Natural was created by Ilana Zeitzer, Elizabeth Furman, and Hannah Roden, with music by Migfist20. Thank you, Migfist, for putting your music in the Creative Commons. You are very talented. Visual design for the show is done by Ilana Zeitzer. To get updates about the podcast, follow us at Queerly Natural on Facebook, Twitter, Twitter, and Instagram. We also upload all of our sources and episode transcripts to our website, queerlynatural.com. Above all else, if you liked what you heard today, tell your friends. Thank you so much for listening, and keep an eye out for our next episode coming September 3rd. Until next time, stay queer, and remember, queerly, it's natural.